This video is for runners who are wondering about arch supports, wondering about orthotics, and how to handle that whole situation. Whether you have them or not, I think this video will be helpful just from a standpoint of how to think about it. Hey everyone, Steve Gonzer, physical therapist with RunSmart Online. One of the big questions that runners come to me when I'm treating a runner and they come in, they usually pull some stuff out of their shoes. They're wondering about getting some arch supports. And I want to talk to you guys about what to think about as an overarching concept to inserts and arch supports in your shoe, because it's a tricky situation, right? I think there was a point where arch supports were way oversold, and then they kind of got throttled back, but now they're starting to come back again. It's just really a crapshoot. A lot of people are confused about, do I need orthotics, or do I need like an off-the-shelf orthotic or a custom orthotic? Now, before I get started, if you like these videos and you want more help with your running, be sure to check out the link in the post. You can look at the RunSmart app, and we have a lot of other things that can help you running, whether it's strength workouts, training plans, or whatnot. But one of the runners, my nose is running today, so now I'm like, that's really good for video. One of the things I had someone come in with, and they've been running orthotics for a really long time, and I want to share that conversation with them because I think it'll help you guys from a standpoint. So this runner comes into me this week and has been in orthotics for over 10 years, and they just keep swapping them out. And he comes to me, he's like, well, I think I'm going to get out of these orthotics. And the conversation went like this: well, how long have you been in them? You've been relatively injury-free and successful, yes. And then we had this conversation because I told this runner this. I feel like I'm sideways. Let's go and adjust this. What I told him was, like, if you came in today and I didn't know you at all, I would tell you that you don't need these orthotics. But he's been in them for 10 years. And what I told him was this, is that even if these orthotics are wrong for you right now, your body is so used to them that taking them away is going to be a disaster. So if you've been running in orthotics for a really long time and you're relatively successful, like, I'm not saying like you're an injury mill, right? Maybe you got some occasional injuries, but you've been in orthotics for a really long time and you're thinking you don't need them anymore, you let that thing sit. I would not touch those because you really shouldn't have to worry about taking them in or out, because you're going to upset the apple cart, I think is the analogy. And even, like I told him, even if they're wrong for you, it doesn't matter at this point. It's the same thing with shoes, right? Like if you have a shoe, this is the thing I always go with, because orthotics and shoes are really the same thing. They're affecting the foot, how the foot is positioned, how it's going to work with running. If you have something that's working for you, and this is particularly my ladies runners, they like to match their shoes to their outfit. Maybe you guys are some of you guys are guilty to that. Or they pick shoes based on color sometimes, or they get bored with shoes. Guys often get bored with the shoes when they try something different. If you have something that works, do not change it. I've been through some awful ass colors in my career because I just know that once certain shoes work, you want to kind of stick with them and be sure about that. So you have this side of the column where you've been in orthotics for a while, you're relatively successful. Even if you think you don't need them, I would keep those in. But what about everyone else? Do you need orthotics? Should you think about getting orthotics? That's the other question. And what I look at is this, and someone in our members group the other day asked if let's take a step back for a second. Orthotics serve to help control the foot, right? So if your foot is weak, or if you have weakness, or maybe you have an abnormality in your foot from a prior injury, or just because, the orthotic is served to support the foot and help the foot. Now, when we look at most runners, like people think, oh, I have a flat foot, so I must need orthotics. Let me go ahead and, this is kind of off cue here, but let's see if I can show you this. Like, this is my foot, guys. Like, I'm super flat. It's actually, you know, most people don't realize that it's actually a lot better to have more of a little flatness to your foot than too high of an arch or too rigid of an arch. And flat-footedness often was like, oh, you need an insert. And that is not true at all. You just need to be able to control your motion. So here's what I would tell you guys is, if you're thinking about getting an insert, I would tell you to go after strength first, because think about what I just said. The insert's going after controlling motion, but you know what the best controllers of motion are? Your anatomy. Your foot and ankle, your knee, your glute, those all control that motion. Instead of slipping in an insert, try to work on your strength. And it's not often, or it's actually quite often, that if someone's just like, hey, look at, you don't have a lot of strength, I think we need to get you stronger, but instead of waiting for this strength to come along because you are pretty weak, we're going to give the foot some help, slide an insert in there, and then we're also going to work on the strengthening, and we'll actually take those inserts away once they get stronger, and they don't need that help anymore. Because the worst thing that you can do is block the foot from going through the motion that it's supposed to. So you have this big orthotic and you're trying to run, and the foot's trying to go through its progression, right? It's supposed to hit on the outside border and then come to the inside border. You have this big orthotic sitting on the center part and it can't get into that motion. You've lost all your shock absorption. So I really caution everyone to just, we're a culture and a society of grabbing stuff off the shelf and just praying and hoping for a miracle. Focus on your strength and your balance. Like if you can't stand up right now and like stand on one foot without going like this, like most of my patients, and then you smirk and say, wow, I didn't know this was that bad. You go start there. And because the orthotic is something that, unfortunately, once you kind of get into it, it's hard to get away from, even if you don't need it anymore. And strength is always the thing. Your anatomy is always the best thing for it. Real quick before I go, if you want help with your strength workouts, I actually have to cover one more thing. Check out the link in this post. We'll actually help you with your balance and your strength through the RunSmart app so you can improve this stuff. But who needs, there is an instance where a lot of people do need support, and that's our high arch people. So if you have, my arches are high, I've worn orthotics for years, boom, after that was going, Laura. So people with higher arches that are more rigid, so they have like this big cave to their foot, we actually like orthotics for these runners because their foot's rigid. They're never going to get that foot to lengthen out because it's the structure of their anatomy. So actually taking the ground with an orthotic and building up to it to support the arch so that it has something to hit into, because otherwise it's just hanging out on it and it can't get there because it's so rigid. It never flattens out. It's always stuck with a peak in it. So we actually like orthotics for higher arched individuals. A lot of times you don't have to go right custom. We like to start with off-the-shelf things. That makes a big difference. But you flat-footed people, you're in my camp, strength is so critical. If you have a high arch, flexibility is super critical because you have more of a rigid foot, and that needs more flexibility. But if you're neutral arched, if you're flat arched, instead of sticking orthotics in, work on your strength. It makes a big difference. Inserts for overpronation, Sandra said. So overpronation is like the buzzword, right? So I'll take this last question before I get going. Overpronation is something that is thrown around a lot, and it's used to sell a lot of expensive things in orthotics. You can overpronate and still be okay. I mean, this is really kind of depends on the person, but if you are an overpronator, pronation is a normal part of your running. It's how your body shock absorbs. So it goes in the pronation is when the arch flattens out. So you're coming in and it flattens. That's controlled by muscles. So you still would like to try to get as strong as you can, because if you overpronate, the orthotic is there to just kind of statically support you. And it's not always going to work. Your anatomy is always best for it. So I did talk about flat feet already. Strengthen, work on your balance. If you're really bad, if you're really flat-footed, you might need a little help, but I can't encourage you guys enough to get your strength up in your feet, because that's the big thing. I'm going to show you again. Nancy just asked. Here's my flat-ass foot. If you guys can see this thing. I run in a neutral shoe, and I've run 50 milers in that neutral shoe. Just because you have a flat foot does not mean you need an insert. Biggest misnomer out there, and it's a mistake, and a lot of people get hurt because of it. So just be careful. Work on your strength. If you want help with your strength, check out the link in this post. Base 3 Basics Bootcamp are huge for foot strength and glute strength and core strength. So that's a good place to start. If you have any other questions, drop them in the comments, and I will take a look soon. But I'm rambling now, so I'm going to get going. All right, guys, have a great night. Bye.